Hey everybody, welcome back to Lions Talk with G. This is going to be an interesting one today. I'll tell you straight up. Um, was not really thinking earlier. Put a little bit of catnip in various places around the cat tree to my left here, your right, and have a couple of cats right now who are getting after it. They're getting after it. So once again, you know what? Nobody watches the videos anyway. So somebody would have to be here to actually complain about production value. So, deal with it. Today is a video that I spent probably 3 or 4 hours researching over the last few days. Um, and it's essentially just covering the current rostered offensive line going into next season. My hope here is that I'll be able to get one position group done per week, and then that will basically bring us up to the draft. Um, I I know a lot of people right now are doing all the pre-draft projections and everything. We just had the combine. Um, it, Honestly, that's not what I want to do right now. It's not what I'm going to do. Uh, this is Lions Talk with G. I'm the one who gets to decide. So we're doing offensive line projections going into next year on March 20th because that's what we're doing. So the order here is jersey number. So we're going from lowest jersey number to the highest jersey number. I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm gonna lock in. We're gonna do it right now. Starting with number 49, Hogan Hatton. Um, First year long snapper last year. I have his 2025 salary down for 960K. So that's 0.31% of the cap. Don't remember him, honestly. Thinking back to last year and all of the snaps and everything, I think I have a faint memory of one snap, perhaps, that was like iffy, and I think we maybe got a hold, or I still got the hold down, it's hard to remember. I think maybe it was like the Houston game, because then we kicked the walk-off field goal at the end of that game. I feel like there was something earlier in the game before that field goal where maybe it wasn't a great snap, but that's all that what I'm getting at here is I really don't recall any negative feedback for him, and I think that's probably for a long snapper. You don't want to hear about him. If you're talking about a long snapper, it's not good 99% of the time. Until I start seeing long snapper trick plays where somehow he becomes eligible and leaks out across the middle, we're gonna hope we don't talk about long snappers. Um, One thing I did write down about Hogan, though, a year prior to last year, in 2023, we had Jake McQuaid snap for us. Hogan is cheaper, is 400K less against the cap, so it's minimal, but it's something to note. Next up, and the first official offensive lineman that I got down here is Natane Muti. I'm assuming that's how it's pronounced. I also didn't look up any pronunciations, so we're going to have an interesting time here. Currently counting for 1.1 mil against the cap. Drafted in 2020, bounced around on the Raiders and Broncos practice squads, and was with us briefly last year. Specifically stayed away from PFF for the O linemen. I think that they're worthwhile in some cases. I think any statistic is if you use it the right way. But I'm not going to use it, especially for offensive line. It's so difficult. There's not hard statistics and things like that. So, drafted in 2020, 44 reps on the bench at the combine. So, I mean, that number, like, even 34, I would have maybe wrote that down and been like, damn, 34 reps, that's legit. Um, 44 reps, I mean, that's like, I'm trying to think of how many did Larry Allen do at the Pro Bowl. I think Larry Allen did maybe 50 something, if I recall, 55 or 62, or it was something insane. I'd have to go look at it again. But 44 reps of 225 at the combine is very legit. One thing that I saw in his initial scouting report, basically just a mauler. I didn't see anything really of note in pass protection for him. Great in run blocking. Not a bad injury history. I didn't bother to look at the specific injuries or anything like that. But I guess there was a quite comprehensive injury history with him. And then he's also not great pulling or out in space. So great run blocker if you're running traps up the middle or something like that. But don't try pulling him and getting him out in space because that's not a strong suit. Next player, this is going to be number 58 on the field, but number 1 in your hearts. Penei Sewell, for the giant deal he just got, he's only a 9.5 mil hit against the cap this year, which is like minuscule. I did look because I checked all the salaries for all these guys. Going forwards, it's gonna start hitting, but for right now, it is pretty low for the best right tackle in all of football. So um, that's literally what I wrote down here. I wrote down all pro, best right tackle in the league, as hardcore as they come. Nuff said. So yeah, that's I don't need to talk about him. I don't need to talk about his game. He's the best right tackle in the NFL, and he never got the chance to play left tackle because Decker's been here. And had he started playing left tackle straight out of the draft, he'd probably be the best left tackle in football. He's probably the best tackle in football, and he will never get the respect he deserves because he's been playing right tackle because that was the team need, because you weren't going to move Decker to right tackle. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And something I wrote down here too, I said it'll be interesting to see what they do with him when Decker retires, because it seems like Penei's been around a long time, and he has. It's been 3 full years now. He's only 25 years old though, so you know, he's got 7 years of his prime left easily, as long as he's been real healthy. Fingers crossed here. Um, but yeah, I just think the interesting thing will be how many years does Decker have left? Is it 1 year? Is it 2 years? And then when he's done, what do we do with Penei? Do we say, all right, at this point you're just a right tackle because you've been entrenched there, or do we say, all right, you want to be a left tackle now? Do it. It would be interesting. It would be interesting to see. So with that said, I'm just going to move on. I don't want to spend forever on everybody here. Some of them I'll spend more time than others. The next up here is number 59, Giovanni Manu, tackle. We picked him up last year in the draft out of the University of British Columbia, known NFL feeder school. I have written down here the ultimate experiment in raw potential. 6'7", 352 pounds. I mean, that's prototypical tackle. That's better than prototypical tackle. If the balance is good, if the bend is good, if his hands are good, if his footwork's good, I mean, all those things he doesn't have. So some people may look at a situation where, like with Philly and Jordan Mailata coming from Australia and just becoming one of the best tackles almost overnight in the NFL. That clearly that has not happened with Manu so far. I only saw him play a little bit last year. I saw him in the preseason, I think, and maybe garbage time of games at a certain point. But I think he looked tentative a little bit, like he was still getting his footing under him, which is fair. I the level of competition in Canada at the collegiate level, I'm not dissing it. I honestly don't know. I'm not, so I couldn't tell you at all. I think I watched a couple of his highlights, a year ago or something like that, around last draft time, but I couldn't tell you the first thing about the competition level over there. So we'll see. I think a thing with him is he needs a big improvement probably in this camp and preseason. If he doesn't want, which once again, what does he care? He's in the NFL. Nobody really cares what people talking about the NFL think. Not people in the NFL, anyways, or they shouldn't. But there will be talk of the waste of a draft pick conversation that always comes up with I noticed it the last couple years with some of the Brad Holmes potential based picks. Broderick Martin being one of them, and there's a couple other guys. But if he wants to stay out of that conversation and avoid the Broderick Martin conversation, then I think we just need to see an improvement. going into, and there's another guy on this list, and we'll get to him as well. I just remembered, actually, I just recalled. So we'll get there when we get there. But um, with him, though, with Manu, if he takes another step, as we know, the physical traits are there. So I watched him. I mean, he's incredibly athletic too. It's not even just that he's big. He's huge and he's ridiculously athletic. His vertical jump, I watched the video of it, and I don't remember the number off the top of my head, maybe 32, 36, something. I mean, it was something that a big guy like that should not be able to do. All right, number 60, Graham Glasgow. This is for me probably one of the most interesting situations. There's a certain level of, we drafted the guy way back when he started his career. I believe it was 2017, 14. I have it here as going into year 10, so 14 or 15 he was drafted. Um, Currently 7.4 mil cap hit, not terrible. Um, Last year definitely seemed like he was slowing down a little bit from some things that I saw. Um, Certain games, and I think he was playing hurt as well last year. Um, and at a certain level, especially offensive line, everybody's playing hurt. Um, so it's hard to use it as an excuse, but it's relevant. And the only worry is if he's going into year 10. It's interesting. The first thing is that when you look at the line as a whole last year, he was the weak link of the line last year. Now, it's it was probably the second best or best line in football, depending who you want to argue with, and if that person's from Philadelphia or Detroit. Um, but realistically, probably one of the better, definitely top two lines in football. Um, the one thing about him, he has utility as a backup center. Last thing on Graham, I don't feel good because of him, and I don't feel bad because of him, if that makes sense. He for me is like teetering exactly 50-50 in the middle, um, of like quality of player to me. I don't feel bad when he's on the field. I don't feel that he's a liability. I don't feel like, oh my God, like, what are we going to do? Not at all. But it's not like when I look at Sewell and I look at even Zeitler last year, just, played very well. Next up, number 65, Kingsley Eguakun, center. Um, Another one of those. He was a rookie in 2024, 840K cap hit. Practice guy, most likely just he's undersized. I read his scouting report coming out of college. Played at Florida. Undersized, 305, gets pushed around by nose tackles. Um, 3-year starter at Florida, got hurt, I believe, his last year. Good athleticism overall, good at pulling, good at being in the right place, getting to the right place quickly. But the concern that I was seeing throughout all of the scouting and reporting is once he gets there, he struggles to do what needs to be done. And that was especially in a college framework. And then now you're to the pros, especially. I mean, the level of defensive tackle and inside linebackers um, in the pros versus college. I mean, and of course with any position, right? That's how it is. But especially with that, I mean, you're going from young kids, and of course the big programs have very good interior linemen, and they're big, they're huge, they're specimens. um, but it's got to just be different. It's got to just be different once you get to up to 25, 28 years old. um, yeah, you talk about like Dexter Lawrence, you talk about those guys, like you're not seeing Dexter Lawrence at any college in this country. Taylor Decker, number 68, very interesting point in time for him, I think. A lot of people probably wondering how many years he has left, and he's been fantastic for us. He's been around and played for the Lions now for a long time. Um, Currently a $23 million cap hit, which is, you know, that's not only more than anybody so far. That's over twice as much as anybody so far. That's over twice as much as Sewell. So, the contract he signed through 2027. He's got a void year in 28. Um, if this year goes like last year, I think that he could start to become a liability just due to the age. Because last year, same with Graham, it was another one of those where he just looked a half a step slow. And I only am comparing him to how I've seen him play personally in the past. I think that's the best comparison. You compare somebody to themselves. Um, and in the past, he was very active. This year, I have a couple instances that I specifically remember burned into my brain, of just watching him get beat bad, like in ways that I had not ever really seen him get beat. Yeah, so Decker was injured last year, and did play through some injuries, and that's specifically also what I have written down here. That he was trying to play hurt at times last year and would get beat very badly. So I get it, um, but you have to look at the full outcome. You have all these qualifiers and things, but at the end of the day, is it getting the job done or is it not getting the job done? Um, he's still getting the job done. But for the record, right now, there were just signs that if things continue a certain way in the future, could turn into legitimate concerns. I love the guy. He's got, I mean, I just heart. He's been around on the team forever. He's been the identity of the team for a long time, through all the terrible years, through the Patricia years, the Patricia years. I'm gonna make a separate video on the Patricia years at a certain point here. I just thought of that. I mean, that nightmarish situation. Um, Good God, that the Patricia years. Sorry for this quick. The Patricia years were worse as a Lions fan than 0-16, because 0-16, it was just incompetence and lack of experience and no name coaches and no name players and nothing. We knew it was nothing there. There was nothing there. The organization had been run with absolute ineptitude into the ground for years and years and years, and the culmination of that was 0-16. We get that. The Patricia situation, there was hope initially. There was excitement. There was this, oh, he's the rocket scientist. He's coming in from the Patriots. I'm going to cut this right there because that's what this video is not about. But we're going to make a video that is about that. Dan Skipper, number 70. He just signed a new salary, or is signing a new salary contract, excuse me. I don't have down any salary information for him currently. But he will be returning, from what I saw. So one of the better swing tackles in the NFL, and everybody loves Big Skip. Like, that's just, he's a great guy. He's fiery. Everybody remembers Dallas. Everybody, and now every time he reports is eligible, everybody cheers. And people were saying, stop cheering when he reports is eligible because we're trying to call the play in the huddle. Stop screaming. Um, I have down basically that, yeah, but one of the better swing tackles in the NFL could start, but I wouldn't love it. Um, yeah, I would feel like with Graham, I said I didn't feel he was a liability, but I also didn't feel great because he's out there. Skipper is slightly less, and I think it's because tackle is such an exposed position. Like guard it's a little easier to, you're elbow to elbow on both sides. Tackle, if you got slow feet or if you get beat on the speed rush or anything like that, it's so immediately evident. Um, and with him, he's 6'9". He's the tallest player in the NFL. I I looked that. I mean, I knew that, but he's the tallest player in the NFL. He actually is tied for, or has the record for, I believe, or maybe tied for the record um, for all time field goal blocks in NCAA history. Put Dan Skipper on field goal block, please. Why has he never been on field goal block? He's 6'9". He's got super long arms. He clearly knows how to block field goals. He's blocked the most field goals in NCAA history. Put him on field goal block. Please. Please. Got 4 left. Jamarco Jones, number 72, tackle. Another one of those names I was not familiar with, didn't have a background on. Really, 1.1 mil on the salary hit this year. Started a few games for Seattle from 19 to 21. Played in most games, so I don't know his history. I don't know if he was a swing tackle over there, if they had certain packages with him, or what they were doing. But I do know that he was not a starter. I think he had maybe 2 or 3 starts per season for those 3 years. And then from there, from 21, he actually was unrostered until Lions signed him last year. So probably just another camp body, or depth. But that's him. Moving on here, number 73, Christian Mahogany. So 990K on the cap hit. He was the most impressive lineman to me last year. What I mean by that is he was not the best on the team, clearly. You have Penei Sewell. He's probably the best offensive lineman in the game. He might not even be the best tackle. He might be the best of any positional lineman in the game. But what I mean by Mahogany is he performed the highest above his expectations for me, from what I saw. So people can go, I didn't look at PFF scores. So you can't go point at PFF scores and yell at me about PFF scores and tell me I'm wrong. I saw what I saw of him, and it was the most impressive of any of the linemen to me. He missed camp in the first half of the season with mono, and all of that additional time to get better, to get himself back in shape, to get him, I mean, even just the cardio shape, yes, but how much weight you lose from mono, how much strength you lose from mono, like muscle mass you lose. How did he even return this year? I mean, let me tell you a story. There was a guy that I went to high school with named Andrew Wiley, and he went and played college football at Eastern Michigan, and then he went from Eastern Michigan, he played for the Chiefs for a number of years, and he won a Super Bowl with Patty Mahomes. And I think 2 years ago, or maybe last year was the first year, I'm struggling to remember, I'm getting old. He plays for the Commanders now. When he was in high school with me, we graduated the same year, 2012. He had gotten mono like his junior year or something like that. I don't remember exactly. And I wasn't like friends with the guy. I wasn't super close with him, but we had some classes and I saw him around and stuff. And like he played basketball as well, and I didn't play basketball, but I wrestled and I saw, so we're same in the gym and in the loft, whatever. But my point here is that Wiley got mono and went from because he was massive in high school. He was 6'2", 3, 4. I mean, I don't know. I'm 5'9", 5'10", so everybody that is that height is just tall to me. But he lost. I mean, it looked like 100 pounds, 80 pounds, like 60 pounds. It was insane. He went from like a built offensive lineman to he looked very skinny. And obviously then he put it all back on and then went and played college football and then went and played for the Chiefs and then won a Super Bowl and went to DC and is playing for the Commanders. So clearly it all worked out for him, but I have firsthand experience of seeing what that does to a person and what it can do to literally an offensive tackle or an offensive lineman. So I just going back to mahogany now, um, definitely just was impressed with the resiliency to get sick, to miss your first camp, going into your rookie year, to all of that stuff, and then still ball out when you got the opportunity. Um, he's the one I'm most excited about going into this year because with Zeitler gone, he's got it lined up. He's got a starting job lined up right in front of him. He just needs to play himself into it. Graham at one guard, him at another guard. Number 75, Colby Sorsdal. 1.1 mil against the cap. This goes back to what I said earlier when I was talking about Manu and the rumblings and the conversations that'll start happening about waste of a draft pick. He's, for me, the O-line equivalent of Broderick Martin this year. Just in the sense of like the noise, the chatter. It's gonna start. It's gonna start. I'm not starting it. I'm not telling you that I'm gonna be the one starting it or saying it. I don't. I'm never going to. You're not gonna get a lot of criticism from me. So if you have 8 out of 10 good draft picks, I think 8 out of 10 is as good as you. I mean, just I don't know. I wish I had some kind of like a witty old timey saying. I'll have to come up with one for next time. Slap my ass and call me Shirley or something like that. But yeah, that's. We're gonna move on here. We're gonna move on. We're gonna move on. Last and of course not least, the center of the offensive line. Um, that wasn't a pun. It wasn't a joke. I didn't laugh. I just said he is the center of the offensive line. That's it. I'm speaking in one-dimensional. He plays center. He is the center on the offensive line. 14 mil against the cap. Best center in the NFL when he's healthy. Now, not going to put him in the same regard as putting Penei Sewell as the best tackle in the NFL, because with Sewell, as I mentioned, he may be the best tackle in the NFL. He may be the best right or left tackle in the NFL. He might be the best O-lineman in the NFL, period. Ragnow is not that. Ragnow is not the best offensive lineman in the NFL. He's in the top 4 or 5%. Absolutely in the top 5%. 5 to 10%, I'd say, of the best offensive linemen flat out in all of football. But he's not in that upper echelon one of one where Penei's at. But once again, you're up. I mean, if you're even splitting hairs up in that echelon and that level, it's a good spot to be. So with Frank, though, I'd say it's debatable. It's debatable if he is even the best center. I think with Penei, you really can't make the argument there's a better right tackle. I think with Ragnow, you could have a lot of people saying Creed Humphrey from the Chiefs is a better center. And if somebody took that stance on me, I wouldn't argue with them about it. Second best center in the NFL is like, that's why would you ever complain about that? He is signed through 2026. So after that, what's it look like? I know he had dealt with a toe, ankle, knee, back, all the way connected, shin bones connected to the toe bone situation. And a lot of people were concerned a couple of years ago because they were like, oh, because something came out where it was like, well, it's not fixable. It's just going to be dealing with pain management and the functionality of it. And a lot of people were like, "Oh, that's the death knell. Like it's something chronic and it's can't heal and it's the end of the end." And then he came back last year and played one of his healthiest seasons ever. And then going into the off season, I saw an interview with him because they do the interviews at the post end of the season, and he said that coming out of this last season is the best he's felt coming out of a season in a long time. So that's encouraging too. Anything can happen, but he was very healthy last year comparatively to the years prior to that. And yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. But that concludes the list of O linemen here. You know, as this thing goes, if you enjoyed anything you heard here today, leave me a comment, leave me a like, subscribe, unsubscribe when I don't post for 2 weeks, resubscribe again, you know, pump my numbers. Anyway, thank you for the support. Thank you to anybody who watches my videos. And I'll keep making them because I want to make them.